Women's basketball is no stranger to controversy, but every once in a while, a story comes along that completely divides the fan base, rattles locker rooms, and forces the entire sport to look in the mirror. According to widespread online commentary and speculation, that moment may have arrived with reports surrounding A'ja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Team USA's future direction heading into international competition. The claim that sent shockwaves across social media was simple but explosive. A'ja Wilson, one of the most decorated players in modern women's basketball, was allegedly removed from Team USA consideration, while Caitlin Clark was elevated as the centerpiece of the program. Whether fully accurate or not, the conversation itself reveals something much bigger happening inside women's basketball: a generational shift, a culture clash, and a debate over leadership, media attention, and how the game should grow. Reportedly, when Wilson received the call, the response she sent to her agent was just 3 words: no long explanation, no press release, just disbelief. For a player with multiple MVPs, championships, and Olympic gold medals, the idea that her place with USA Basketball could even be questioned felt unthinkable. This wasn't just a roster decision, it was a statement. For years, Wilson had been viewed as a lock, a cornerstone, someone whose presence on Team USA was assumed, not debated. She had already structured her schedule around international play, reportedly turning down opportunities that conflicted with potential commitments. That's what made the alleged decision hit harder. This wasn't a demotion, this was exclusion. But supporters of the decision argue that it didn't come out of nowhere. Over the last 2 seasons, fans and analysts began noticing a pattern. Interviews, social media posts, subtle comments that didn't directly name Caitlin Clark, but seemed impossible to separate from her meteoric rise. It started quietly, remarks about rookie hype, about how popularity doesn't equal impact. But as Clark's star grew, so did the tension. Clark wasn't just breaking records, she was changing the visibility of women's basketball in real time. Arena attendance spiked, television ratings climbed, merchandise sales exploded, entire fan bases showed up simply because she was in the building. And with that attention came discomfort. Wilson, like many veterans, had spent years grinding in a league that struggled for mainstream respect. To watch a younger player instantly command national headlines created an emotional divide that many players privately felt, but few openly discussed. Critics claim Wilson crossed that line. In interviews, Wilson questioned whether Clark's popularity truly benefited the league. She referenced efficiency, shot selection, and media narratives. Each comment came wrapped in plausible deniability, but fans began connecting the dots. Every time Clark achieved something historic, a counterpoint appeared, a reminder of who had been there first, who had paid dues. Supporters of Wilson argue that this was simply honesty, that veterans should be allowed to challenge hype, that women's basketball deserves nuance. But detractors saw something else: insecurity disguised as critique. According to online discussions, USA Basketball wasn't just paying attention to performance. They were monitoring chemistry, leadership, tone. International competition isn't just about talent, it's about unity. And sources claim that tension surrounding Clark's name became impossible to ignore in certain environments. Other players allegedly noticed the shift. Conversations got awkward. Energy changed when Clark came up. Some veterans reportedly distanced themselves from the negativity, recognizing that it was becoming counterproductive. When players start worrying about locker room vibes more than scouting reports, decision-makers take notice. The alleged breaking point came when concerns about team environment reportedly reached USA Basketball officials. Whether exaggerated or not, the message was clear. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. Meanwhile, Clark kept doing the only thing she's ever done: play. No social media shots, no clapbacks, no interviews addressing the drama, just basketball, and a lot of it. According to commentary, when Clark eventually received her call from USA Basketball, the contrast was stark. No anger, no entitlement, just gratitude. She asked what was needed, what role she'd play, how she could help the team succeed. That response alone became symbolic. To supporters, this was the difference between leadership styles. One focused on protecting legacy, the other focused on growth. USA Basketball, according to speculation, had already been studying Clark's impact for months. Not just box scores, but global reach. International broadcasters reportedly inquired about her availability. Sponsors explored campaigns centered around her image. Her presence wasn't just athletic, it was economic. Clark had become something women's basketball had rarely seen before, a global draw. Her style of play translated seamlessly to international competition, pace, vision, shooting range, basketball IQ. She didn't rely on physical dominance or favorable whistles. Her game functioned regardless of officiating style, which matters greatly on the FIBA stage. That comparison became even louder when discussions turned to officiating differences between the WNBA and international play. Critics argue that certain players thrive under league-specific leniency, physical post-play, moving screens, hand checks, elements that international referees are far less forgiving about. FIBA officials don't care about storylines, shoe deals, or ratings. They call what they see, and some believe that reality would have posed challenges for players whose dominance depends on physicality and favorable interpretation. Clark's supporters argue she wouldn't face that adjustment. Her gravity alone changes defenses. Even when her shot isn't falling, teams guard her like it is. That spacing opens opportunities for everyone else, a trait coaches value deeply at the international level. This is where the debate stops being about two players and starts being about philosophy. Do you build around proven veterans who carried the league through lean years? Or do you lean into the player who's actively transforming the sport's future? To some fans, Wilson represents the past being disrespected, a pioneer pushed aside for hype. To others, Clark represents evolution, a player whose influence extends beyond the hardwood. The alleged decision sent a message, whether intentional or not. Character, chemistry, and growth matter as much as accolades. And that message rippled across the league. Veterans who once felt comfortable taking subtle shots at rising stars reportedly went quiet. Old tweets disappeared. Interview tones shifted. Agents allegedly advised players to lean into positivity, knowing that international opportunities could be influenced by public perception. Because in today's sports world, performance alone isn't enough. Organizations evaluate marketability, leadership, and how players represent the game globally. Sponsors notice, international leagues notice, fans notice. Clark's continued success despite constant scrutiny only strengthened her position. She didn't fight narratives, she outplayed them. She let results speak. And slowly, public sentiment shifted. The conversation also reopened long-standing discussions about race, media narratives, and who gets celebrated. Wilson herself has spoken openly about how Black women in sports often feel overlooked or undervalued, and that perspective resonates deeply with many fans. This situation isn't black and white. It's layered, emotional, complicated. But one thing is undeniable. Women's basketball is changing fast. The audience is bigger, the spotlight is brighter, the margin for negativity is smaller. Organizations want ambassadors who unite, not divide, who elevate teammates instead of competing for narrative control. If the reports are even partially true, then Wilson's exclusion wasn't just about comments, it was about alignment. And Clark's rise wasn't just about shooting, it was about impact. This moment marks a symbolic passing of the torch, whether officially acknowledged or not. A shift from an era defined by survival to one defined by expansion. And the message is clear. The future belongs to players who grow the game, not guard it. So now the question turns to you. Did Aja Wilson deserve to be pushed aside? Or was this a betrayal of everything she helped build? Is Caitlin Clark truly the right face for Team USA? Or is the sport moving too fast for its own good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and click the next video on your screen. because this conversation is far from over.